Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with Season 8, Episode 1 of our weekly Q&As. When we first did seasons, if I'm remembering correctly, it was based off of when we had to take a break, or did take a break, I guess, for more than 1 week. And so we've brought that back after just about the number of episodes in sort of a standard season of TV, right? 24, 25, when they were doing full-length.
Like a full... It's funny because I still remember a time when there were seasons that were bigger than 20-something episodes.
Yeah.
And
now there's a lot of shows that have, like, really short, limited runs.
Or even they break seasons into half seasons.
Yeah.
So that they have some sort of, like, a winter hiatus. It's weird. I don't know that it's... I think it's pretty good for shows because, again, way back when, they didn't do big, long arcs.
Yeah.
It was, the stereo... not the stereotype, but the sort of the typical show where nothing changed from week to week, so you could just drop in any time. Would be something like Law and Order
or Friends.
Yeah, or I guess Friends started having more of it, where Ross was dating somebody else besides Rachel, and it was
okay.
So
I never watched Friends, so maybe not.
So some of it, or maybe you'd be in the middle of the season, like stuff happened and there were consequences. But there's some shows where it doesn't matter. Like you could just watch it. You needed no other context. You didn't need to know who was dating who or what was happening with what.
Corner Gas.
Yeah, so that's more... So at the end of the episode, it's left pretty much like it was at the beginning. Like, there's no significant changes.
Yeah.
So
we got a new season. There was some personal stuff.
Yeah, all right, so I guess it's not that awful to mention that we had... a death in the family.
Yeah.
Because this is the longest break we've taken, right? It was clearly something significant. And I don't know that there's really much more to say about that, because I don't know that this is the kind of channel for that kind of
Yeah, but so we're
vlogging.
back. We are excited to be back. Because, there was still stuff going up thanks to you, but I was not here. And we are back for the Q&A, and I'm looking forward to it. We've got some fun stuff to announce. As requested, our cat updates are going to be at the beginning of the episode. And so we've had... the cat is now in our home successfully. And he's been here for a little while. Would have been last week when we talked about him, actually.
Right.
But so he's here. He's quite lovely. We are really having a great time with him. He's super well behaved. He's wonderful. We were considering having him in the room or letting him be in the room while we were filming, but he was making too much noise and scrabbling around in the background. And probably not adding to the audio experience at all.
So what's great about the internet is we've got all this information. What's bad about the internet is it's not necessarily that reliable, or maybe even if it is reliable on a large population level, it may not apply to this cat. So the reason why I'm talking about that's sort of the prelude to talking about how we watched some videos about how cats don't like certain things. And one way you wanted to, because things that are dangling, things that are off limits to a cat.
Yeah.
You don't want to just let them have complete free reign. So there's that video with a cat and foil and a kitchen counter.
Yeah. Where
apparently cats don't like the sound, the tactile feedback from foil. So before CB came back, we anticipated, certain areas would be a little bit dangerous.
Yeah.
Wires would be problematic if you started chewing on them, so we'd wrap wires in foil.
And so the point of it is that it's good because it's only when they do something they get a sensation that they don't love, and it just teaches them to not like a place. And it's a lot better than like scaring them off a place or anything else, because it just makes it not appealing to them.
Because scaring them, they might associate with you instead of the place.
Yeah.
Whereas with the foil, now the problem with that is, so this goes back to what I'm saying about the videos. Problem with that is, so we let them into our air quote studio.
Yeah.
And there, being in a den, there's a whole bunch of not great areas for a cat, and we foiled them up. So what's happening when we first started trying to do this was all you hear was foil crinkling the whole time, because it doesn't seem to bother him the same way.
He doesn't care. He'll pull foil off of stuff. If he wants to check out an area and there's foil in his way, he'll pull the foil out of his way and then go someplace. Yeah. So it seems like only really works when there's no place for him to even go in the whole zone. Like if a whole area is covered in foil, and the whole time he's in there, he won't, make an effort to go in there. But if he can like jump over the foil or take a couple steps and be past it or something like that, or if the foil is loose and he can pull it off, he'll totally just use that and get access to a spot. So like I tried to put some foil under like the edges of my bed, and I was like in my bed like on my phone, and I heard a bunch of crinkling, and I looked around and he was gone, and there was a big chunk of foil just sitting like next to my bed, and he had pulled the foil out of the way and then just climbed under my bed. He's like, okay, well I made a door for myself now. So he does not care at all. And that's been sort of true across the board. A lot of stuff where they're like, oh, cats don't like this, you're not supposed to be able to do this, this stuff is like not super pleasant for them, or like, sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't. He seems just really sort of not bothered by anything and pretty chill. They're like, people like, cats don't love it when you play with their paws. He'll like put his paws on you, and he totally just lets you grab his paws and everything. He'll actually
use his paw to pet you.
Yeah.
He'll actually, like, not often, but he'll just reach out his paw and touch. Yeah, no claws.
So people say a lot of times, like, you can't rub, like, a cat's belly, right? And, like, that it's supposed to be a trap. And he doesn't use his claws at all when you rub his belly.
But he'll sometimes hug you with all four legs.
He will, yeah. I was rubbing his belly, I think last night or 2 nights ago, and he just sat there and cleaned me. He was just licking my arm as I rubbed his belly. So, I had a friend COVID test and come over.
Yeah.
And he was just so chill with new people too. He's not scared of new people. He will just make friends with anything and anybody.
Yeah.
No fear.
Yeah. And on the flip side, I mean, what this should not get into is maybe like an all cat channel all the time, but he's so new.
Yeah.
And
we're excited. You can let us know in the comments if you want to keep hearing about him or not, and we will decide based off of the proportion of people. Just be aware that we are 2 votes for yes to keep talking about him. So,
well, because if it's going to be partly about what's been happening, because it's interesting, right? Because we missed a couple weeks.
Yeah.
There's a few things, and I still want to just do maybe a quick recap without a lot of commentary, just
like news?
To place it in time.
Yeah.
Of where we are, because it feels like some of the stuff that was going to be talked about, that we were planning on talking about, seems so long ago now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's what's crazy to me is clearly based on how skinny he was when we found him, that he wasn't just left overnight. The fact that there's nobody missing him, it tells me that he's been out for a little bit.
Yeah.
For not just, for maybe an extended period of time, but he's clearly a survivor. Like the way he will drink more than I've read that cats will drink, because it's available. That he will, I guess initially he was much happier to eat, but he's also not gorging himself. Like it's weird, right?
Because he'll leave food. Yeah.
Yeah. People and animals, I think, are trained sometimes by food scarcity to maybe eat as much as they can when they can.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he's got that. But on the other hand, he's just part of me is afraid that maybe he's got diabetes or something. That's why he's peeing so much and drinking so much. But he's still active. Like he's really crazy. Yeah. Like when he's ready to play, he's like.
He woke me up this morning by slamming his body full force into my door, like multiple times, and apparently he was running up and down the hall and getting up enough speed that he could jump up our door frames and like get most of the way up our door frames. And after he would jump up the door frame, he would sort of turn tail and sprint full speed back, and he doesn't have a tight enough turning radius to turn all the way back, so instead of turning, he would just sprint into my door, slam himself in that, and use the impact to correct his trajectory.
Now, to be fair to him, it is hardwood floors, so it's a little bit slippery.
Yeah. No, but this was post-jump, so he jumps, he comes down, he resets, and then he just sprints off and uses the door as a way of turning.
Oh, like starting
quicker.
Blocks.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Okay.
I don't know, so he was just slamming it, bouncing off my door, because that didn't slow him down as much as like stopping moving and turning around.
Right. Okay, so I think I don't think I have anything else more to say about CB.
He's great.
Yeah.
If anybody has any cat care suggestions in the comments or any opinions you want to share, I'm not 100% sure if we will. We might include pictures of him at some point in the video here or somewhere else, so I
should point out he's way cleaner than I ever expected. Like he actually comes and meows at me, and I just realized it took me a few days to figure this out, that the times that he's meowing at me is typically when his litter box is full,
Yeah.
and he needs me to clean it. Because once I get to it and clean it, he's watching me do it.
Yeah.
And then within maybe another 15-20 minutes, he's taken a dump
Yeah.
or made another clump in
Yeah,
the litter
so
box.
he's like
But
clean
not
it.
loud.
He uses his indoor voice. He does.
Yeah, he's got an indoor voice. Doesn't even wake us up for breakfast in the morning. Anyways,
Yeah.
so I just want to do like maybe a quick thing, because over the last 3 weeks, the Raptors had come back from being down 0-2 to tie it all up, then tied it up at 3-all, and then finally lost the game 7. And I feel like, I mean, I'm happy with the season they had. If you told me at the beginning of the year that this was what was in store for them, I would have been pretty satisfied.
Yeah.
What I'm disappointed with is that if maybe Pascal Siakam had been his average self instead of a liability, right? If he contributed like even not even as good as he normally would, but maybe even like an average NBA player, because he had a bunch of turnovers, they would have won 2 of the games. They could have won 2 of the games that they'd lost. The political part's crazy because it feels like it's been so long ago. There was a man that shot in the back 7 times while a cop was holding onto his shirt.
Yeah.
As a result of that, Milwaukee Bucks did not show up for their game, and technically they forfeit the game for doing that.
Yeah.
But Orlando Magic refused to take the forfeit. NBA's been pretty impressive, actually, because they were, I mean, if we go back even a little bit further, their first professional league, I think, to suspend all their games.
Yeah.
They've had the most successful bubble,
And I think
resuming games.
a team in the WNBA, I don't know if this was another sport or something, they showed up with all their jerseys with 7 bullet holes in the back and then knelt for like 20 minutes and then I think refused to play after that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of good response and like not with approval from their union.
Yeah.
So they took a lot of personal risk.
Right.
Yeah.
Talking about approval, what's crazy to me is, and this is, I guess, maybe still, it's sort of an evergreen kind of idea or comment, is that there's so many people who complain that people should be protesting peacefully, and when they say it like Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
And what's weird to me about that, it's so wrong in a couple of really fundamental ways.
Yeah.
So, because it's not true. Because people are protesting peacefully. The great majority of protesters are peaceful.
Yeah.
So to me, it's unclear if rioters are protesters, because I've seen credible reports that some of the people inciting violence, if we're going to exclude the cops who have been really contributing to this, right, have been protesters, but also some reports that people are not protesters. They're just trying to undermine what the protesters are trying to do.
Yeah, and there's also like protesters who are like actively trying to stop other people from inciting violence and all that, you know.
So it's wrong from a sort of a factual, observational point of view. But the other part that's wrong historically is Martin Luther King was assassinated. So when they say, yeah, you should be more peaceful because Martin Luther King was effective and he was...
Yeah, you should let yourself get shot also.
Well, getting killed is not really a great option. And in his time, there was a very low approval. Like all the people now that are saying, yeah, Martin Luther King.
And also he talked about how rioting was sometimes necessary too.
Yes, it was, what was the way he used it? It was
rioting is like the language of the masses or the language of the unheard or something like that.
Yes. So maybe he didn't do it, but I think he was coming around, especially in his writing, to thinking that there was definitely a place for it, even if he chose not to do that himself, right? Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. The discourse has become just so poisoned.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it's really hard because, you know, I think there's a lot of... It is so hugely political, right? And it has to be. The discussion has to be political. It shouldn't be. But given the way that the world is, and the way that everything was set up, it has to be a really political discussion for the change to happen, right? Yeah. And that makes everything so much harder, and it's really hard to sort of find you almost can't have an unbiased news source in this case, right? Like it's really hard to just, because even just who you're talking to, what you're focusing on, what gets the coverage, right?
Well, sure.
I'm saying there are people who are right.
I'm going to say that maybe... All right, so maybe it's not... I think overall, you can choose to be as balanced as you want, but I think a lot of people don't want to be balanced. And so the bias comes from making a conscious decision to do... not exactly sure how I want to say it, but to represent things in a way that doesn't actually reflect what's real. So it could be the way you cover protest. It could be the way you choose who your man on the street's going to be.
Yeah.
It could be so many different things, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's not... news is unbiased... news is biased as much as it always has been in terms of what is possible. Mm-hmm. But I think that there are certain venues that are totally willing to throw any kind of pretense out the window.
I think maybe, and I agree. And when I say like bias, I think maybe that might even be giving one side of the discussion too much credit and saying that opposing them counts as bias, maybe. And I might be sort of giving them too much leniency in that regard. I just think that you can't have this discussion without picking a side. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
you very much have to pick a side, and there is a lot of disagreement, and you can have your side and represent it based, almost entirely just on an accurate representation of what's going on. And saying, here's exactly what's happening. But I think there's a lot of stuff where you can do in news where what your personal ideology doesn't necessarily need to come into it as heavily, and it really does here, I think.
So I guess maybe what's been bugging me a little bit is the use of the word political. And I think it's definitely fair when you're talking political as in a way to get things done, implementing policy. I think the problem I have with using political to characterize it is it still plays into the both sides kind of narrative where people of goodwill have differences of opinion of how things should get done, but they generally have are in agreement that people deserve to live. People, and the problem becomes for me is when one side is basically saying, or maybe they're not saying it, but they're acting as if, this group of people, we don't really care so much about them.
Yeah.
And whether that is like a passive amount of sort of disinterest where they're willing to let stuff happen because these other things matter more to them, or whether they're actively kind of contributing to the is evil too strong a word? Contributing to the environment that's so poisonous.
Yeah.
I don't know. It becomes less political, and it's clear to me that when so we're gonna go full Godwin here. If you're against the Nazis, I don't know that that's necessarily political as much as it is being human. Where if there's a position that says these people, it's okay if they die. Yeah. There's really only one right position, and I don't think it's political at all.
I guess it's hard, right? Because, like, I don't know how much we are able to say, like, this when there's just because there's a clearly right answer, right? Mm-hmm. But the other side is, like a political ideology, right? And it is sort of a construction of what your goals are, what you want, and like a way of like enacting that change, right? Like it is like a political system. So I don't know if it's fair to say that that's not political. Like I'm not sure. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I don't know.
Yeah.
How you make that line and who picks what that line is.
Yeah, I just feel like saying it's political and using it the same way, it misses so much.
Yeah. It definitely, like, putting it in the same box feels...
Yeah, it just
doesn't
feel
like
quite
diminishing.
Right.
Yeah,
right. So maybe we should get to the questions, but I do want to point out one other thing that occurred to me a couple weeks ago, and I feel like I don't want to miss this. Is that how ironic is it that in Portland there were caravans of Trump supporters going downtown, pepper spraying and paintballing. Is that a word? Shooting paintballs at protesters. And one Trump supporter was shot and killed. But how ironic is it that the caravans that a large number of people were all worried about, it wasn't caravans of asylum seekers, it was caravans of Trump supporters.
Yeah.
That were dangerous. Okay, so anyways, we got questions.
We got a lot of questions, because we missed some time. Well, enough questions. Anyways, so first question comes from Android with a capital N. It's just the word Android. That whole long thing isn't part of it. It's a capital N droid. And they say, hey guys, I have a question for multiplayer. Is there any information about the ways to unlock all the badges, titles, and background? Seems like I'm just getting random new titles each season.
It's an interesting question. It's not anything I've verbalized, but I thought about it a few times, is that I don't think anybody's ever done that. I mean, there's some obvious ones, right? Like getting the first place, second, or third place badges.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody's ever done it because there are just so many badges.
Yeah, and they don't tell you what you get them for.
Right. It's not part of the name, it's not part of the information you get from it. And when you get a bunch of badges early on, it's hard to distinguish between the different things that you could have done in a given week of multiplayer play.
Mm-hmm. So I couldn't tell you. It seems like whatever they are, you unlock them all over the course of just playing. And I think you get a lot of them just for leveling up your online profile.
Yes.
So you get XP, you level it up, and so some of them you get for specific stuff. But I think other than the first place, second place, and third place, I can't think of any specific thing other than the XP that we did.
Yeah, I'm absolutely certain that there are, though, because when you look at the different, there were the tasks that you could get, right? If you would finish, use Joker's passive to knock somebody out, for example, stuff like that. I'm sure there's stuff like that in multiplayer, and it's like all the other guesses that people make about how glitches work. And if you're not able to test it repeatedly, and you can't, because once you've got it, you can't go back.
And it takes so much time to earn new ones all the way
on
from
a new
scratch.
Account.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's going to ever be possible. We've played years, and we've still got badges. I mean, aside from the 3 that we expect from first, second, and third place, which we haven't gotten yet, that there are badges that we still haven't unlocked.
Yeah.
And we have no idea how to get them.
I guess the good news is that once you get Detective and the monkey with the cigar, you've pretty much gotten everything that we want.
And the monkey is early.
Yeah.
It's not even that late. I don't think we had to get to level 99 to get him.
Mm-hmm.
That, to me, there's sort of the ideal title.
Yeah.
There's and I've switched from Detective to Justice League now because we've been playing so many Justice League teams. But the leprechaun background with the rainbow, the old-timey monkey dressed like Sherlock Holmes, and Detective or Justice League.
Yeah, which is what we have on this account, which is a level 99 account that you'll see in just a second. So there we go. Our next question comes from Kai ZL or ZL if you're
ZL,
wrong.
We're Canadian.
No, if you're American. And they say, what if 2 Suicide Squad Jokers in a team with Suicide Squad Harley?
So that's the Suicide Squad Harley's Special 2, where the passive, when you pick... Or, sorry, not the passive, but the ability... I guess it is part of the passive because it's something added, right? Where it's changed instead of boosting your damage.
Yeah.
Joker comes into...
the second special, ability.
He does the animation for Special 1. He does the damage boosted by whatever Special 2 modifiers from his gear.
Yeah.
So... We already replied to this a while ago, and we said only one comes out. Based on quick testing, it's the one in the second slot that comes out, because really, you got 3, right?
Yeah.
So when Harley Quinn has to be in the first slot to do it.
Yeah, not in those slots before you start playing, in those slots, in fight.
Right. But there's a couple things that are interesting, and I like it as a question because it shows a little bit of thought, right? It's thinking through the potential implications. And that's how you figure stuff out. That's how you learn stuff if you don't happen to do it accidentally.
Yeah.
So I think there's no reason it couldn't have been both Jokers coming out, since the passive is written, a little ambiguously, right? There are 2 Suicide Squad Jokers. There are 2 other slots. And Harley Quinn could... I don't see a reason why it couldn't be based on the way the passive described it. Never mind the passives sometimes that are... poorly worded and maybe wrong, right?
Yeah.
Now, but it was after testing, we know that either Suicide Squad Joker, whether it's the regular or unhinged one, would work. But when it's two of them, it only goes with the one in the second slot and not the one in the third slot.
Yeah.
But based on the animations, too, it seems, even before we tested it seemed unlikely that it would have worked out for both to come out. But, man, that would have been not only cool, but that would have been super powerful.
Yeah, it would have almost been too good.
But wouldn't it have been a nice Easter egg if they'd both come out?
Mm-hmm.
And the way you could have tried to make it not so overpowered is make Unhinged Joker really hard to get.
Yeah.
Because then you would have had both Jokers come out. Only the regular Suicide Squad Joker would do the big damage. Unhinged Joker would come out and would do a little bit of damage because you couldn't promote him very far.
Or you could even just make it more balanced by just, if you have two, like, they are nerfed a little. Yeah, maybe the second one, the first one is the one that actually does the full damage, and the second one just adds an extra, like, 15,000 or something like that. And that would still be pretty good.
Yeah. Now, I mean, as I was saying, the part about making Unhinged Joker harder to get, I mean, who am I really kidding, right? Because once this has started, you'd have a bunch of people who'd glitch or hack the Unhinged Joker up to Elite 7 or Elite 10.
I would even be fine if it was just an animation Easter egg and it didn't deal any extra damage. It would still be kind of cool.
Yeah, I would like that.
And it just did whoever was the higher damage.
Or average them out.
Yeah. Well, average them out would sort of suck.
Because it would be
average them out would be crappy.
It would be halfway between. Yeah,
it would be an Easter egg, and it would be an Easter egg that made the game harder.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, listen, Unhinged Joker makes the game harder.
That's true.
When you're playing against any weaker team, so you actually don't want him in the fight, or you don't want him playing against guys that are weaker than you. Because who wants to spend more time waiting until you're takeover?
That would be the crappiest Easter egg, though. A character that makes the game harder to play with
in every way,
and then
as a teammate and as a player,
screws up your passive.
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
That would suck, though.
All right, no, because Unhinged Joker is bad already. His passive makes it bad when you're fighting with him, and it makes him bad when he's a teammate of Suicide Squad Harley Quinn. That would be hilarious.
That's like those Easter eggs where, I forget what, but there's like some games where they have like a bunch of different difficulty settings, and if you beat the game on the highest difficulty, it'll give you something that's like a item or like armor or something that's really crappy. Because they're like, well, if you can beat the game on the highest difficulty, this is like an extra level of challenge to like a ridiculous extent.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So extra difficulty, and not only that, like your opponent has more health, but now you've got less.
Self-imposed hard mode.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So there we go. Our next question comes from Gabriel Porras, and they say, FYI, I've been keeping up with the multiplayer cycle, and I think the only multiplayer exclusive gear, or sorry, I should say character/gear, not in the current cycle, is Arkham Origins Deadshot, at least from what I've gathered. And then there's the hand on the chin emoji.
Yeah. So I commented this earlier too, and I had a few more things that occurred to me after. So what's also missing is Scarecrow's ventilator mask.
Yeah.
And because it's not very good, I think people just don't notice. Nobody wants it.
Yeah, that's the one where one of its abilities is like covering up which characters in which slot, and you just have to remember, right?
You just have to remember, and when you're fighting the AI, it has no impact on the other team.
Yeah, because they don't swap like intelligently anyways.
Yeah, it's just so
it's so bad. We've already talked at length about how bad it is, but they could have just shuffled it. They could have just made it so that when you tapped it, it put a random new guy in instead, no matter what, and it didn't let you pick. But it's so crappy.
So, but all right, so the Arkham Origins Deadshot thing though, so it made me think. So when was he last out? I went to look in the old notes. He was last available March 2019.
Yeah.
And even digging even further, that was his 4th season. So when we look at where it's possible to go, the way I always judge it is, well, top 1% is reasonable. Getting consistently top 3, 2, or 1 is not as easily to get, and the number of people who do it are small enough that really what we're looking at is each season we're looking at a max of 3. 4 seasons means that max is really sort of 12 copies, realistically, for... except for the people that you recognize on the leaderboard. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty easy to have the 11 copies you need to get them to Elite 10, so it's quite possible.
Yeah, so like up to 1% of the Injustice player base has him, if that same 1% was in the top 1% every time.
Right. So, because I was digging around, I just realized, I mean, it really is a shame, out of all the different multiplayer rewards that are missing, that this is I guess the only significant one left, because they brought everything else back, right? That we cared about. So looking at my notes from back then, we were saying he's a good character. He's got good stats. He's got a fun passive that makes him both a good damage dealer and a special specialist. And that we ended up doing a series of videos on him, just using him as in different ways, right? A basic damage dealer, a special specialist, and a splash damage special specialist. And additionally, because he's Arkham, he gets really good when he's on a team with Arkham Knight Batgirl.
Yeah.
And all right, so his passive: trick shot, bullets from Deadshot's sniper rifle and wrist guns ricochet, dealing damage to all characters on the enemy team. When Arkham allies are in combat, each 10 seconds, Deadshot will shoot the enemy with an electrified round, draining enemy power.
Which is great. I also really like the implication that because it's saying that the bullets ricochet, dealing damage to the enemy team, I really like the implication that everybody else is just standing off to the side, just out of frame.
Oh, they're waiting. They're just waiting for their turn.
Yeah, that because when you tap on it, it seems like they come out from, like above and away. There's some sort of non-specific like other area that they're in. But the fact that they're ricocheting, right? They come down from the ceiling. Right. But the fact that they ricochet, it's funny that they're like standing like just out frame if they're on like a catwalk or something, and so the bullets are just bouncing up and smacking into people. Because that verbiage is very specific.
All right, so what would be even funnier and kind of crappy would be, it's ricocheting. Why doesn't it hit your own teammates? Yeah. That would be kind of hilarious.
It's your other guy who's in. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and nobody would, because you don't expect it, you wouldn't notice until you started really paying attention and see, hey, how come there's numbers beside our characters, and it looks like it's all happening? That would be kind of funny.
It would be terrible.
Yes,
right?
It would be like, terribly funny.
Obviously they haven't worked, they haven't gone far enough into the lore of it that when they put the word ricochet, they need to make sure that it's accurate, right? They're not
Sherlock Monkey, sorry.
They're not like Dwarf Fortress, right? Trying to be like fully
because they're
realistic.
trying to create a storyline that meshes with the passive, right? So it's not just it does something, but somehow it fits into...
Yeah, but so obviously there's a lot of suspension of disbelief, and they just needed to pick a word, but I like that they specifically picked ricochet, because it's a great mental image of just, like, them up there, like, in the stage lighting for the area or something, getting whacked with stuff that's flinging up at them.
Oh, as opposed to, like, remember Alan Moore's Miracle Man? All right, spoiler alert, I mean, it's a 30-plus-year-old comic.
And it's also where our outro comes from.
Yes. So just, you might want, if you haven't read Miracle Man, you plan on it, maybe skip the next 30 seconds. But the Miracle Man and Michael Moran shared a space, right? So the other one was in another dimension, while one was in our dimension. Mm-hmm. So it's the other way you could do it is that each character, they're all shifting back and forth. They're all three characters that share the same body in different dimensions.
But they aren't, because you can see them drop down from the ceiling when you switch.
That's just a special effect.
And back. Oh, okay.
That's just an illusion or hallucination. But then the way that they would ricochet is that it goes through their body into the other dimension and damages them partially, because they're all connected like that.
Maybe that would work. See, because when you just say splash damage, that's just a number, right? Splash damage is just a term for what's happening. Ricochet is very specific.
Yes. Yeah. So what you've done is you've got a connection. They've got some sort of psychic connection where if you hurt one of them, you're hurting all of them.
Actually, what's interesting is when you tap one to swap a character out, they just disappear, right? Do they like drop through the floor? Or there's no animation. They're just gone, right?
I don't think I've ever paid attention. I think they just hop up. Don't they hop up as the other one hops down?
Do they? I don't know. I've never paid attention properly. We'll have to pay attention.
It just never occurred to me that it mattered.
Yeah, it hadn't to me either, and I'm thinking about it now. But I do appreciate sort of the implication here, which is that there's just people hovering off stage waiting for it to be their turn to fight, and just
like a wrestling match.
Yeah, and just the idea that they have to move. It's all for show. It's all for the cameras.
So it's like WWE. Maybe they were more tightly connected than we thought. Remember Immortals, WWE Immortals? Yeah. They are, because there's a ring that we are watching with a camera that's focused. There's another monkey. We're watching with a focus that's too tight, so that the ring is beyond our field of view.
Yeah.
And they're just tagging out, but because they're so fast, they're coming in really quickly.
Yeah, we need to pay attention the next time somebody's.
Well, we'll see it right away because we can swap out really quick for our Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to the next question. Anyways, that was just a fun aside. This one comes from Adrex 2Ds, and they say you should do a name reveal so we can. Oh, I guess they do go back, but they go back like they're on a wire. Like you can't jump back like that. They just get yoinked back.
Maybe that's your superpower.
Maybe. They all have the exact same superpower?
Yeah.
Okay, but like Green Arrow doesn't have a superpower, does he? Isn't he just good with arrows?
Isn't the idea of injustice that even the unsuperpowered guys got superpowered?
I don't know.
And that's how it's sort of the great equalizer, right? I don't know. That's
Many questions. Ricochet. They say you should do a name reveal so we can follow up with something you said in the video, or maybe ask questions directly to one another. To one or the other. Keep up the great work. And so we'll say, as far as name reveal, probably not.
But we're talking about it, which is what we said we would do.
So we would do a name reveal if anything ever necessitated it. Like if there was a video that I thought we really should put out that required like a name. Right?
Yeah.
That would be something. But we don't generally love the idea of a name reveal just because it doesn't feel necessary. We do this and we like it to be something that we can do without any sort of reservation based off of it being tied to us.
Right.
So we can make what we think is the content that we most want to make and not have to worry about like, oh, somebody I know will see it or whatever.
Right.
Right?
Nothing wrong with pseudonyms, though.
Yeah. So we did a while ago, from just we had a really sort of highly engaged viewer who did end up naming it. Yeah, iProfit 3.
He was a Patreon supporter.
Great guy. All around chill dude. And so he named us after the comedy duo Abbott and Costello. And I was Abbott, I guess, because I first in the list and I also spoke first at the videos and you were Costello. So we did that, and there was a while where when people sort of cottoned on because we liked using it, so other people would use it and he would use it consistently. And there were some people who actually thought our real names, like on our birth certificates and stuff, were Abbott and Costello, which was funny. But I guess the long and the short of it is, if you all the value of a real name, call me Abbott and you Costello.
Yeah.
And that's...
Well, all right. So speaking of funny names, though, I don't know why it just occurred to me now. When I was younger, I thought anybody who was lucky enough to have the last name Rogers, how do they not name their son Buck? How do they miss that opportunity?
What is Buck Rogers? Who's Buck Rogers?
Buck Rogers was a character. There was a movie and a TV show, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, and there was he had a funny robot companion, Twiki, and Dr. Theopolis was like an AI in a little necklace around Twiki's neck.
Yeah.
And Aaron Gray was Captain Wilma Deering. It was all because he was, I don't know, I think he was in suspended animation, and he ended up, when he woke up, he realized he was way in the future.
Okay.
And he was he some sports or athlete something? But I just remember the name, Buck Rogers. I don't know when it stopped being so cool to me, and I stopped thinking that would be such a cool name for your kid and how lucky. And I realized at some point, and can't remember when that transition happened, that, man, that kid would be so picked on if his name was Buck Rogers.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a moment where you're like, oh, that's a cool name. I wish I had that name. To be like, oh my god, it would be terrible to have that name.
But you'd think that such a big shift I would have been aware when that happened, but I just don't know. I mean, I remember thinking it was really cool, and now I'm aware that it would be really bad, and I just don't know when.
It was probably just, you probably went years and years without thinking about it, and it occurred to you when you were in such a different life position that you wouldn't not have been able to pinpoint the moment when it happened.
Right. So it's a lot of, again, I don't know why I'm jumping around so much, but it's like the idea of the suck fairy.
Yeah.
Where there's something that you really like, whether it's a book or a TV show or something, and you loved it when you first saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come back to it, and because you've changed so much in your own life that you realize, man, it's really bad. But instead of just, not wanting to... it doesn't have that same emotional feel like it was bad all along and you just realize it now. It's more just like it used to be
Something
good.
happened to it. Yeah.
Something happened to it, and it was the suck fairy got to it and made it full of suck.
Yeah.
I love that idea. I think that was Joe Walton's idea.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there we go.
So we're that came from the evidence of the naming.
Yeah, the name one. We're bouncing around today. We had a lot of stuff to talk about. We had been too long without making one of these videos. So
Weeks.
We've got a bunch of loose energy just sort of bouncing around the studio today.
Because it is funny, right? Because what these videos do is it gives us an excuse. I don't think there's other. It's almost like a convention where you have an excuse to have a conversation, and it's a little bit performative, but it's also partly just, for us at least, thinking through some ideas that are occurring to us that we wouldn't normally do.
It's lightly directed by questions, but we can manage to sort of make it into anything we want to.
Yeah. This is cool. I missed it. I missed it when we weren't doing this.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice to be back. The next question comes from Junk Mails, and they say, I guess this isn't a question, but that's the problem when we go from all the letters that mean that we're covering every technicality to just Q&As that we have to call it a question.
Right. And
the format doesn't allow for it.
Maybe it's the ampersand. So this was a question or a comment on our most recent, the Just 2, Earth 2, version 2 team, because there were only 2 Earth 2 characters on the team.
Yeah.
And it's the second time we've done that.
It might be too late in our video, but you said it's the and I have the terrible idea of it's a Q and A and where the and just stands for everything else.
Q and A and
it's just Q and A and it's just Q and A and it's just the second and it's the second ampersand after
and just Q and A and okay. Is it it's the ampersand, or should there be some ellipsis at the end?
The ampersand just includes everything else. It's Q and A, etc.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, we might have to. Well, it's a new season, so we could change the name. I guess right, because last season was when we simplified it. We can make it confusing and dumb in an entirely new way now, but that's just quicker to say.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll think about it. If this, right. You'll see in the thumbnail. Maybe we'll see if it is something terrible. But anyways, So this question comes from Junk Mails, or not question. This comment comes from Junk Mails, and they say the reason why the Batman didn't take the damage might be an unintended consequence of no power generation in the presence of Batman Ninja Helmet. The moment you tagged in Killer Frost, the Batman got some power, and that was when he started taking damage as well. So maybe everything came together and caused this. If this is true, then it is bug that you found in the app.
That was really interesting.
Yeah.
Because that's actually a really insightful comment, too, because it's true. If they programmed it in a way so that... clearly they programmed it so when you got 3 bars of power, based on a combination of his passive and the gear, he's really taking no damage at all.
Yeah.
And when you have 3 bars, what happens? You stop generating more power.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be interesting, and it definitely. I went back and looked at the video. It was true. It was when we tagged in Killer Frost that it made all the difference.
Yeah. So it's entirely possible. It's possible that we might have found a glitch there. Either way, that was a good catch.
Yeah. So because even when Solomon Grundy was in it, he's got his passive, which I like to call now Death and Decay and Delay. It should have been doing damage over time damage.
Yeah.
There should have been something, and it wasn't. It really, really wasn't. So it wasn't basic damage. It wasn't special damage. I mean, we even tried a super and nothing happened. Mm-hmm. And I guess his passive doesn't trigger enough as far as shattering gear that we could know if he had eventually shattered, and we didn't have Claw of Horus going on. So if somebody had been able to shatter all his gears and get rid of it, then that would have been able to tell us, and then we could have kept away from Killer Frost. But the problem was we were losing time, I think, because he's still doing damage even if we're not. And a war of attrition like that, we're not going to win. I guess the other way we could have done it was if we just sacrificed 2 guys, left 1 person at full health. You know, because if you keep on tagging them all in and out, and then everybody gets low health before he knocks out 2 of ours, then we're screwed anyways. That wouldn't have been a good experiment. But I like that. I like that observation. Only because it fits.
It fits really well.
Yeah, whether it's true or not.
So I guess not a ton to talk about there. We can move straight on.
Yeah.
I think the next comment comes from Atish Naik, and they say, or it might be Naik, I don't know how. ATISHNAIK has always let us know how to pronounce it if you want us to pronounce it correctly, and we will do our best. And they say, guys, you are really uploading good content, but the thing is, the reach is very limited. And I think I checked out this channel last year, and since last year, it should have grown tenfold, but it didn't. And I think the way to grow your channel is to get into what's really hot topic right now, and the games which guys are interested to see are Battle Royale games like PUBG Mobile, Call of Duty, Free Fire, etc. And I think you should start tips and tricks of those games, and I'm surprised because you guys upload a video without fail of the weekly recap. And so this is a fun comment. I mean, we like the sort of first half of it, which is this is nice. Somebody just saying something kind about us. You guys should have grown more than you have. And I think personally that we have grown exactly the amount that we should have.
Yeah.
I think given the quality of our content, I am super happy with the amount and type of support that we get. And I really couldn't ask for anything more in terms of viewers or subscribers and anything. And I think I don't know if we would grow or how much we would grow by diversifying and getting into stuff that was more hot topic. I do know that I'm less interested in making that stuff.
And I'll tell you what, a year ago, I think we were slowing down enough. A year ago, I would have been surprised if we hit 20,000 subscribers. And we did.
Yeah. Still going strong.
So you know what else is a hot topic? Politics.
Yeah. We're doing political commentary.
You could say that we are branching out more, even broadly. The problem always, to me, is always that there's that, you finding that balance, right? One, if the space, it's like all the people who were making Minecraft videos. If it's a space that's already occupied by somebody who's really good, in order to overcome that advantage of being what's the term, the first person on, like the first person in the space.
I don't know.
You know what I mean, though, right?
Yeah.
You need to provide something good. So if the people that are there are already good, what can we provide? It's not, we don't have it. I think it's
once it's saturated, right?
Yeah. And the idea, because I think Justice League is, as bad as we might be sometimes, we still do actually have some. All right, so I want to say about the super. Part of me is always tempted to not even try to get the sliding bar. I've always been curious about whether holding the block the whole time would be enough, and I've never been able to bring myself to let go, to hold on to it and not try the bar, because I feel like I'm going to lose badly.
Yeah. You should try it one time.
I should try it one time.
Eventually.
I should, but I just can't bring myself to it. But it occurs to me every time I see that. The time that it takes to play a game to get good at it.
Yeah.
And then the time it takes to create video footage. And then to make a video out of that footage and the expertise. Like, part of it is planning it.
Yeah, I have a million Valorant clips. I need to put that into a video finally. I've taken, weeks and weeks off Valorant. When I wasn't recording the video, I was, I wasn't doing a ton of other stuff either. It wasn't like I was just sitting around playing video games. So, but that would be something. And there's stuff like that, right? Where if I think I have a video that would be moderately entertaining for Valorant, I would post that, right? But there's not a lot of stuff like that. I think, and it's different. It's harder. So one of the things I did that bundle for racial justice and equality, and the sort of idea of it and then starting working on it was satisfying. But then I realized the more I got into it, and I played some other games here and there from the bundle, it was a qualitatively different experience to play them and to make videos on the games. And it made it less appealing to me to just sit down and play, because it was more effort. And then I was like, okay, well, I don't want to get this huge backlog of unnecessary footage on my computer, right? Yeah. And so I had the opportunity to sort of play stuff. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I feel like, making a video right now. I don't know if I feel like sort of forming an opinion on it and then being ready to put my opinion into words. And even with the quick and easy editing, that just wasn't something that I was super interested in. And so, I didn't end up doing a lot with that, which is fine, right? Because not a ton of people were interested in it anyways. We had some people who watched it and we got good support. It got good feedback, right? Yeah. And it was enough views that if I wanted to make it, it was hundreds of people are seeing my stuff. That's still pretty cool. Right. But it wasn't it wasn't enough views to motivate it inherently, where I'm like, oh, well, this is going to be a new series for me. I got to do this now.
And it's not even just the motivation, because what you're talking about is that you're talking about all the work that goes into making the video. When you look at the time in the video, right?
Yeah.
That's like the tip of the iceberg, and it literally is.
Oh yeah, they were
There's so
like
much
the
more
videos
behind
were
it.
only like a few minutes long, and it would take me like a couple hours to make it, like an hour at least, right? Minimum. And
Right.
you know, I don't. At the end of the day, we're just we make the stuff that we want, and we're pretty happy with how everything turns out.
Yeah, I guess if we had less to do, maybe if COVID had really affected us differently, and we had, I still probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah, we got school and job and lots of stuff going on. Now we have cat.
Well, and so what's crazy about job, we were talking about that, one thing I forgot to mention too, right, which is really happening now, is at least in Ontario and Toronto, we've had a big uptick. One thing I wanted to, because we never had a chance to talk about this, I maybe we did, I don't remember, I think I talked about it with your mom, the idea of variolation. And
we definitely did talk about this on video.
Okay, so it's been an interesting shift where, you know, the whole beauty of science is that you change your ideas based on new information.
Yeah, that nothing ever is like, this is the only one thing that I'll believe, and there's no way that anything else could be true.
So masks for the pandemic had a really interesting shift where people, because they were looking at the problem from one direction, they were thinking, do masks protect you from getting sick? Mm-hmm. And the answer was,
sometimes, sort of.
probably not that great.
Yeah.
It's not making much difference. There's a limited effectiveness of wearing just a cloth mask for yourself. If you do, you're going to wear a mask, you want to wear something that offers better filtration, whatever.
Yeah, double layered. If it's cloth.
Yeah, and people, I guess, who aren't as familiar with science took that as being either the only answer, or that when there was a shift, that you can't trust any of it.
Yeah.
Because then we realized that the idea of wearing a mask is it's really good at protecting other people, but it's not that good at protecting yourself. And now we're shifting one more time. So variolation, what I read was that this was a technique that people were attempting to use for smallpox before the vaccine came out, where they were exposing people to smallpox in sort of little bits and doses in an attempt to get them to be to develop protection against it. But they would
you would be manageably sick instead of maybe die sick.
Right. And what we're seeing now is maybe it's kind of credible that there's the idea that wearing a mask may not keep you from getting sick, but the inoculum, so the viral load that comes in is hitting you to make you sick, when it's small enough, you are more likely to have it mildly or asymptomatically.
Yeah.
And then you're not going to end up in the hospital. Mm-hmm. So then there actually is benefit. So we start off with limited benefit wearing a mask to protect yourself, lots of benefit, then to moving to lots of benefit to wearing a mask. So everybody should wear a mask because it protects other people. And now we're looking at, well, wearing a mask for yourself is still good even if other people don't wear it, because what it does is it decreases the viral load that's infecting you.
Yeah. So no matter what, even if it only cuts down on like 10% of what gets into you, and even if every person who would have gotten sick before is still getting sick, there's still a chance that wearing a mask is better.
Yeah.
Like, significantly better.
So that's why we're seeing with Toronto, and what made me think of that just now was because Toronto, they're talking about, well, it's schools and whatever, and I think as a society we're really screwing up and failing if we are keeping bars and wedding halls and what else? Parties.
Yeah.
Open.
Like clubs.
Before after we've already closed some schools. Like, to me, priority should be the schools. We keep them open as long as possible. I think really at this point, excuse me, Ontario needs to shut down all that other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it boggles my mind that we're even having this discussion, but we were seeing numbers that we haven't seen in 3 months.
Yeah, it's not great.
Mm-hmm. So that's what we're looking at, and it feels like it's shifted. I mean, this is going back to what we started with, right? Like, how much has changed in the 3 weeks since we've done our last video like this, is that we went from feeling like everything was under control, and it really has shifted, and we're that much closer to the American elections.
Yeah, which is why you just gotta stay careful, why you can't drop your guard just as things are getting better, because anything above zero is, above zero.
Yeah. And I read somewhere that somebody was saying that the R0 was greater than 1 now, which, you know, it is if we're increasing, but it's made a really big jump in the last couple of days.
Which is not good at all.
Right.
Yeah, so there we go. Not the most positive note to end it on, but I guess it's a reminder to be careful if you live in any place that COVID is still extant. It's always good.
How do you pronounce that? I've never heard somebody say it. I've only except until now. To me, it always felt like it should be extant.
I pronounce it extant, like existent, but like minus the this.
And I pronounce it like I never say it. I've never actually said it until now. I pronounce it extant, like ant, like an anthill.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not sure. Well, one of us is right, one of us is wrong, or we're both right. We'll never
both,
know. Or we're both wrong. That's true.
Right. No, both right. All right. So when I was a kid, I used to think advertisement was pronounced advertisement. And I heard my teacher say it like that, and it blew my mind. And then I looked it up. Both are acceptable pronunciations. Yeah. So it is actually
sometimes
possible.
Everybody's right.
Sometimes everybody's right.
It's just because somebody far enough back in the past pronounced it in a way that was wrong then, and then enough people picked it up, and now it's not wrong anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyways, we're out of footage, and we're out of stuff to talk about. I'm sure that's not
for
true.
this week.
I'm sure we could continue talking, but
that's true.
We are going to stop talking now anyways. So we'd like to give a shout out to Eliza. Let me visit the cat, Kaiten. She got a COVID test to see CB in person. This shout out has been brought to you by free and plentiful access to COVID tests. Thanks, Canada. And we'd also like to give a huge thank you to everybody who is supporting us on Patreon.
That's a big thank you to Consul Peasant and Edwoon at the top tier last word. Mohammed Albshaiti at the Your Message Here tier. Shawn Farrell, Daniel Simonson, Aaron Maule, Michael DeVries, Brandon C., and Irvin Ruiz supporting us at the credited level. And Chris Wolf, Scarlet Danny, Awesome Gamer 241, Pavu RS, and Gavin Malott at the gratitude level.
There you go. Thanks so much for your support, and thanks so much to all of you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Komoda.